Welcome to Poetry and Poets with SueAn Stradling Collins, Director of the Apache County Library District. Today, I thought it would be appropriate to read some patriotic poems with you. I'll start with one called Stand by the Flag by a poet named John P. Keyes. Not familiar with him, but I do try to find a different poet here and there. So, stand by the flag, its folds have streamed in glory, to foes a fear, to friends a festal robe, and spread in rhythmic lines the sacred story of freedom's triumph over all the globe. Stand by the flag, on land and ocean billow, by it your father stood, unmoved and true, living, defended, dying, from their pillow with their last blessing, passed it on to you. Okay. The next one I'd like to read, and I'm not going to read the whole poem, is part of Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Most of you have heard at least the beginning of it. I'm leaving out some of the middle that doesn't, I guess it furthers the story, but it also makes it very long. So I have edited. We'll get the beginning and part of the middle and then the end. So we have Mr. Revere with us as we do this. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in '75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. Skipping a part. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed on the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth, but mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes, till full in his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles, in passing, a spark, struck out by a steed that flies fearless and fleet. That was all. And yet through the gloom and the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight kindled the land into flame with its heat. You know the rest, in the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For born on the night wind of the past, through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will awaken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere. So grateful for this country and for our freedoms, for those who give so much that we have what we have. And as usual, I wasn't planning on crying, but we all know that probably will. This one is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's known more for his essays than his poetry, but he had some pretty powerful poetry too. This one's called A Nation's Strength. What makes a nation's pillars high and its foundations strong? What makes it mighty to defy the foes that round it throng? It is not gold. Its kingdoms grand go down in battle shock. Its shafts are laid in sinking sand, not on a biting rock. Is it the sword? Ask the red dust of empires. The red dust of empires passed away. The blood has turned their stones to rust, their glory to decay. And is it pride? Ah, that bright crown has seemed to nations sweet, but God has struck its luster down in ashes at his feet. Not gold, but only men can make a people great and strong, men who for truth and honor's sake stand fast and suffer long. Brave men who work while others sleep, who dare while others fly, they build a nation's pillars deep and lift them to the sky. May you have a happy and safe 4th. May you remember all the many blessings that we have because of those who have gone before us. May our banner forever wave, and thank you. I'll stop there.